In this video, we'll talk about perceptual blindness. Our ability to stay focused on one task is useful, but this focus limits our awareness and makes us blind perceptually. Attention is a very limited resource we have. There are limits to the number of things we can attend to at once. We indeed pay a mental cost if we pay attention to one thing. When we pay attention to one thing, we are blind to other things because our limited attention makes it nearly biologically impossible to all things at the same time. We don't know what we are missing because our brains can completely ignore things that are not its priority at the moment, even if they are right in front of our eyes. In one experiment, participants were asked to watch a videotape of two teams passing basketballs and count the number of passes between players on one of the teams. You can watch the video by following the link below. The participants were so focused on their task of counting the passes that a majority of the participants did not see a man in gorilla suit walking into the middle of the scenes, bend his chest, and then walked off. We are particularly vulnerable to perceptual blindness when the changes in the environment are unpredictable and unexpected, like a person dressing as a gorilla. When a similar video was shown in the business executive classroom, even fewer executives spot the gorilla. That is a cause for concern, since executives and leaders need to stay alert to peripheral threats and opportunities, as well as concentrate on the job at hand. Failure to notice changes in their environment will keep them from adapting their strategies to ensure their organizations to thrive. In another experiment, researchers replicated in a lab the process of screening for weapons at airports. Study participants screened bags for dangerous objects after having been told how often those objects would appear. When they were told that the objects would appear 50% of the time, participants had a 7% error rate. But when they were told that the objects would occur only 1% of the time, the error rate jumped to 30%. Since people didn't expect to see the objects, they pay very limited attention to them. As the researchers explained, if you don't see it often, you often don't see it. Our attention is selective. We pay attention to one thing at the expense of others, so we have perceptual blindness. The last example of gorilla shows that paying attention to basketball passes leaves us blind to visual signal of a person dressing as a gorilla. What about hearing? Do we have selective hearing as well? In an experiment, participants were asked to listen to a conversation between two women, and then a male character walked through the room repeating the phrase, "I am a gorilla," for 19 seconds. You may think, isn't that obvious that those participants would hear it? But 70% of the participants did not hear a man repeating, "I am a gorilla," even though he remained audible for 19 seconds and walked right through where the conversation took place. Recall the last time you had a heated argument with someone. When you were so focused on your own argument, did you have selective hearing? Multitasking is overvalued. If the goal of group meetings is for deliberation and make group decisions, then allowing group members to bring laptops and cell phones to the meetings may defeat the purpose of having a group meeting. If people need to use the digital devices to search information relevant to the decision, it's better to do it before the meeting. At the meeting, when group members work on their laptops or check their cell phones, their attention is not on the deliberation and making group decisions. Since their attention is so consumed on the information from the digital devices, they are perceptually blind to whatever is being discussed in the meetings. When someone takes pride in their multitasking skills, you have all the reasons to be skeptical. Having power and feeling powerful makes power holders have enhanced views of themselves and pay more attention to themselves. This psychological effect often makes power holders pay less attention to others. People in position of power are more likely to dismiss others' advice than those who have less power. People in position of power also spend less time looking at their conversation partners. As we have discussed in earlier videos about confirmation bias and overconfidence bias, many psychological effects of power work against leaders who aspire to make wise decisions. Perceptual blindness is another psychological effect that is detrimental to leaders' decision-making. Another area of the perceptual blindness has to do with gradual change. In an experiment, participants were divided into two groups. One group was asked to estimate the amount of money in jars filled with pennies. The other group was asked to audit the estimates of others. The estimators were rewarded not when they were accurate, but when their high estimates were approved by the auditor. The auditors were rewarded for approving the estimates, but penalized if caught accepting an extreme overestimate. When the first group gradually increased its numbers in comparison with the true value, the auditors were less likely to see the estimates as inflated and unethical than if the estimators suddenly moved to the same exaggerated number. In practice, this helps explain why many organization scandals have grown so big when they are exposed to the public. Small ethical transgressions that are originally overlooked can snowball into serious crimes. In this video, we talk about the perceptual blindness. When we pay attention to one thing, we are blind to other things because our limited attention makes it nearly biologically impossible to all things at the same time. We don't know what we are missing because our brains can completely ignore things that are not its priority at the moment, even if they're right in front of our eyes. Now it is time for you to provide an example of perceptual blindness and reflect on how it influences decisions made by you or the people around you.